Hey guys, it's Logan again. Welcome back to another video on creating a maze generator in Gamemaker Studio 2. This is my third time recording this. I'm running out of time, so if I'm rushing a bit, I'm sorry. Just keep rewatching the video and hopefully you get it. But at the same time, maybe I'm a bit more experienced at explaining it. Okay, so we're going to shuffle our coordinate list. And why do we want to shuffle our coordinate list in this instance? Because remember, we're going to try to randomly place blocks in our room, right? So if we go to our array and take a look at it, shoot, I can have these. I'll fix that in a minute. Okay. So, what was I saying? Yeah. So if we have a coordinate stored in each position in our array, right? Because we could think of our array as a one-dimensional array, even though it's a two-dimensional array, a one-dimensional array just holding a coordinate, two values. That's kind of what we've set up. So we have our first coordinate. You can think of this as just pixels on a screen, right? And let's say you wanted to place a pixel in random places on the screen. Well, you could randomly pick a number inside of our array, basically randomly pick an index. But what if you picked the index more than once? Because that could happen, right? Because you're randomly selecting between 0 and 6. You're randomly selecting between 0 and 6. So you might pick 1 twice, and it places a pixel at that position twice, 0 and 1. 2 times. So how can we prevent that? Well, we can use a shuffle. And here's kind of what I'm saying about, let's say I wanted to swap these. As you see, I'm kind of swapping the coordinates around, and then we can run through our array from the left to the right, and it'll still be random where the coordinates are, right? So let me swap these two. I just swapped the positions of the coordinates in our array. But as you see, if I go from left to right, I'm going from 1 to 0, 1 0 to 1 2 to 1 1. So that's random. That's kind of it's kind of going left, right, or middle or something like that. And then we go to 0 3 0 0 0 2 0 1. So as you see, that's we just shuffled the basically index that each of these coordinates is placed at. So how are we going to shuffle an array? Well, we're going to use the Fisher-Yates shuffle, which is a shuffling algorithm that works in O of n time complexity. If you don't know what that means, then don't worry about it. But O of n is good. It basically means it's going to take as long as it would take for the for loop or something to cycle through all the elements in our array. That's how long it's going to take, basically. So yeah, don't worry about the time complexity too much, but if you know what time complexity is, O of n time is what this is going to take, and there's no need to store an extra array or a duplicate array. So if I were to give you the assignment, hey, make a shuffled array, what you might do is create a second array of the same size and randomly go to the first array and select a random position in that array and put it in our new array, okay? And then you would kind of remove that from the old array and repeat that process. But you're opening up a second array that is taking just as much memory in our computer, in our RAM, as the first array did. So you're essentially doubling the size that we need in memory. So what we're going to use is the Fisher-Yates shuffle. And what this does is we have a target, and our target starts at the first index in our array. And we select a random value from the remaining piece of our array. So we'll select a random value. So I'm just going to do. Oh, it selects 3. And then we swap these two values. So we swap the 0 and the 3. And what does it do now? Well, it moves our target up. We basically ignore this. And it moves our target up, and we select from the remaining elements in our array. So it randomly picks the 4. And we swap those two values. Okay, and now our target moves up once more, and it does this until we get to the end, and then we select from the remaining elements in our array. It selects a 5 maybe. And let's repeat the process. Moves up to the next value, selects one of the remaining 3 to swap. Maybe it selects let's select a 2. Oh, sorry, wrong one. We're swapping the target with the 2 from the randomly found value. Okay. And our target moves up once more, and we select from the random 2. We select a 6. Shoot, I kind of messed that up. But you get the point. I forgot what order these were in. And now our target moves up once more, and we can ignore the last value, okay? Because it's going to be random anyway. So we'll ignore that to lessen our time complexity. And that's basically the Fisher-Yates shuffle. It's a good shuffling method for arrays. So let's get to implementing that. So let's go into Gamemaker, and we have our add coordinates here, and we're going to call next a function that we're going to create, or a script that we're going to create called shuffle chord list. Okay, and let's make a script called shuffle chord list. Okay, and I'm going to put a description at the top. Description and shuffle coordinate list using Fisher-Yates algorithm. All right. So how do we swap two array values? So let's say we have an array 2 that's equal to 10, array index 2, and we have an array index 5 equal to 20. Okay. Now, I'm going to go ahead and give you a moment, if you want, to try to figure out how you'd swap these two values, if you don't already know. And if you do know, skip ahead about 30 seconds. But, so how are we going to swap these two values? Well, if we just set array 5 to equal 20, or array 5 to equal array 2, and then set array 2 to equal array 5, this is not swapping our values. I'll tell you why. So this sets our array 5. Our array 5 after this operation would equal 10, okay? And now our array 5 equals 10, and our array 2, remember, equals 10 still. So now we're trying to set our array 2 would now equal 10 as well. Because remember, array 5 equals 10 after this, and now we're setting our array 2, which equals 10, to what the new array 5 equals, which would be 10. So now both these values would equal 10. So what we need to do is store a value in a temporary variable. And what I mean by that is, first, before we change our array 5, we'll say temp equals array 5. And then we can do this swap, and then we can set our array 2 to equal temp. And now, here temp would equal 20. Then we'd set our array 5 to equal 10. And now our array 2 can equal our temp, which was 20. And that's how we swap an array. Okay, so moving on, we're using a two-dimensional array, so we're gonna have to use two temporary variables. But first, we're gonna use a for loop. So we're gonna say for var, we're gonna say target, because that's what I labeled it as, prior equals 0, as long as target is less than our chord list size. Remember, that's the size of our coordinate list, how many coordinates we have in our array, minus 1, because we're going to ignore that last value. And we're going to use target plus plus. So that's the initialization for our for loop. And we're going to cycle through each value and perform a shuffle. So the first thing we're going to do is get a random value in our array. So we're going to do random, all right, let's use rand equals, okay, so we're going to use target. So we're going to start at first at 0, but as we move up in our array indexes, or our target moves up, we want to not get a random value from one of those prior numbers. So that's why we're using target plus something. We're using target plus random, and we're getting a random value between our chord list size minus our target. So I know this is kind of confusing. Could I actually take out target since I have, no, this is what we need, and then we're going to use minus 1, okay? My math could be a little off. If y'all see something, you're smarter than me, then maybe you'll see. I feel like the target could be taken out of both sides. No, it couldn't. Chordless size. Yeah, we have to use this, I believe. So this gets a random value from our remainder of our list. And again, if y'all see something off on this, then let me know, and I'll pin it in the comments. Okay, so that gets a random value from the remainder between our target and the end of our list. And we're rounding it. So next, let's set our temporary. So let's make our temporary variables, and I'm gonna go ahead up here and kind of initialize them. So I'm gonna use temp x, temp y for using var. And so after this script is finished, it's going to erase those variables from memory and make them available for us to use again. So let's set our temp x. Let's set our temp x to equal, remember chord is our two-dimensional array that we have. And let's use target as our index and store the x value of that target. And do the same thing with y. We're going to use chord target y. Okay, So now we have our temporary variables. We could perform the swap. So to perform the swap, we'll just use chord target x equals chord rand. Remember, we got a random index with this line. So we can use chord rand x. So we set our target x to equal chord random x. And remember, that's essentially, this is the target, this would be rand, okay? And we're making the swap happen. Okay, so now we're gonna do chord target y equals chord rand y. And let me put my spaces here because it bugs me. All right, and now we need to perform the other swap. So we do chord rand x equals temp x, and then chord rand y. Did I do something different here? Equals temp y. Did I spell something wrong? Oh, I gave 2 spaces here. That was confusing me. Okay, so yeah, that's it. We performed our swap after you have this. So we found a random value from the remainder of our list. Then we set our temporary variables to equal the coordinate at the target that we are at, using in the for loop. And then we set our target coordinates to equal our random coordinates. And then we set our random coordinate to equal our original temporary coordinates. And that's all we have to do for shuffling our chord list. Next, let's go in here and let's print out our shuffled list. Let's make a couple more coordinates actually. So I'm gonna copy and paste these. I'm gonna add like a 2 and then add like a 3 and then 2 here. I'm just gonna add some random numbers. Okay, so now I have 6 total coordinates. I shuffled my coordinate list. Now I want to see all these coordinates after they've been shuffled. So I'm gonna use for var I equals 0, I is less than, I'm just gonna use chord list size, and we actually need to make a function to get this so we don't have to type this in, but we'll worry about that later. So then I'm just gonna do show message, and what are we gonna show? We're gonna show our string of our first coordinate that we found. So we're gonna use get coordinate, and where are we getting the coordinate from? Well, our I position, and then what coordinate do we want? Our X coordinate. And then we're gonna add a space, and I'm gonna use a string get coordinate. We're getting it from the same position in our array, but we're getting the Y coordinate in this case. And if I hit play, it should shuffle our array and show us a message. So we have 210, 125 first. That's good. 350, 126, 102, 103, 1010, 2015, 3012. Now, if I run this again, we're actually going to get the exact same sequence. And the reason is because Gamemaker is not generating a random seed right now. So to be able to have Gamemaker generate a random seed, we need to use the function randomize at the initialization of our script. At the initialization of our game, really, we want to use randomize if you're ever using random functions. So now randomize is going to give us a random seed to produce these values from. So now we have 102, 103, 1010, 350, 126, 2015, 3012. So as you see, we're cycling through our list from left to right, but it's producing random coordinates now, okay? So we can add the coordinates from top left to bottom right in our room. Top left to bottom right, I think that is for you guys. And then we shuffle those coordinates so we can read it from top left to bottom right, and it's going to produce, it's going to seem like it's giving us random coordinates. So that's why we used shuffle our chord list. And I think that's the end of it. So I hope this made sense. I'm sorry I rushed through this one. If you need more explanation, let me know in the comments. And if you have any suggestions, leave it in the comments. And please like and subscribe and share it with your friends so I can help more people out, get more subscribers. I hit 300 subscribers. That's awesome. I think I've been doing this for 3 weeks, so that's pretty cool and growing pretty fast, and I'm enjoying it a lot. So I look forward to keep making these videos for you guys, and I'm glad I can try to help so many people out, and hopefully everyone's watching still. My big passion is helping the Gamemaker community become better programmers, because since GML isn't a real language, it seems like a lot of stuff put out there isn't made using computer science concepts in the background. It's just kind of given to you, here's the syntax, use it. So hopefully I can make you guys better programmers. So I appreciate you guys watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks.